Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the new movie Firestarter. Firestarter is an adaptation from a Stephen King novel and is directed by Keith Thomas, who has done nothing of note. I'd say that the biggest draw for me to this movie was definitely Stephen King. Stephen King is an excellent novel writer, and he always has the most intriguing work, so it's definitely Stephen King that drew me to this film. Firestarter is rated R and is classified as a horror/thriller. The synopsis is as follows. A couple desperately try to hide their daughter, Charlie, from a shadowy federal agency that wants to harness her unprecedented gift for turning fire into a weapon of mass destruction. Her father taught her how to diffuse her power, but as Charlie turns 11, the fire becomes harder and harder to control. When a mysterious operative finally finds the family, he tries to seize Charlie once and for all, but she has other plans. Without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. Sometimes I say a simple plot is a good thing for a movie, but this movie's is a little too simple. Just like the synopsis said, the plot of this movie is literally a government agency chasing after Charlie and her father, but all of it seems anticlimactic. The challenges that they come across along the way aren't very intense or horrific or have any deep meaning whatsoever, and it doesn't feel resolved at all by the end of the film. So I think the plot fell flat on its face despite its simplicity, and I don't feel like a lot of creative work was added to this movie to try to make the plot any better. So plot gets a thumbs down. 2 is family friendliness. I think the things that drove this movie into an R rating were profanity, and some of the deaths in this film are very bloody and gross. There is some animal violence too. You see an animal get killed pretty graphically, and this movie opens with a breastfeeding scene because progress. It doesn't really show anything, but it's there. And there were a few jump scares here and there, but nothing really horrific. But because of the profanity and the gore, I'd have to give family friendliness a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. There were a couple familiar faces in this film. Obviously Zac Efron, but also Kurtwood Smith, but their performances weren't great. In fact, none of the performances in this movie felt inspired at all. But the worst part about all of this was the performance of the main antagonist, Captain Hollister, played by Gloria Rubin. Oh my gosh, that has got to be one of the worst acting performances I have ever seen in a movie in my entire life. The whole movie, it seemed like she was forgetting her lines and then remembering them halfway through a sentence. Her cadence was off. It was absolutely horrible. And the script itself was terrible as well. Just to give you an idea of how poor the script was, there was a moment in this movie where Charlie accidentally kills this cat. They bury him and put him in the ground, and Zac Efron and Charlie decide to sit there and decide to pray. And I was like, oh, this could be a redeemable moment, sure. They start praying, and Zac Efron is just like, we just pray that he, she, or they. And I literally felt the entire theater roll their eyes. This movie was more concerned about getting the pronouns right for a dead cat than they were about making a good script at all. And I think that tells you all you need to know about the quality of this film. So acting and script get a huge thumbs down. 4 is character development. No. There is none. Most of the character development we would have seen would have happened between Charlie and her father, but that pretty much doesn't exist. Something very crucial happens in the film, and after it does happen, both Charlie and her father pretty much go on as if nothing happened, and I was like, how are you okay right now? That doesn't make sense. There's no character development with the antagonist, and none of the performances were believable at all. All of the characters in this movie are underdeveloped to the point where you don't care about any of them. For example, Kurtwood Smith's character. It seemed like he was going to play more of a vital role than he did, and he had one scene, and then you never saw him again in the movie. And though Charlie's parents mentioned wanting to train her to use her abilities, she never got trained, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, after 1 hour of testing out her powers, she all of a sudden has complete control and knows how to do all this stuff, which made it even more difficult to believe. I'd say probably the character who got the most development was Zac Efron's character, and that's not saying much because he was barely developed as well. Character development gets a huge thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. The CGI in this movie wasn't bad. Fire looked okay. The gore was disgusting. But some of the visuals in this movie were terrible. Specifically, some of the camera angles that they were showing, especially with Captain Hollister, made this movie look like a daytime drama, and it was absolutely terrible. In addition to that, I'd say the audio in this film was mixed pretty terribly as well. So visuals and CGI get a 50-50. And 6 is rewatchability. Please, never again. I'll never watch or hopefully think about this movie again in my entire life. This movie's only an hour and a half long, and I think about 30 minutes into it, I was considering just going home. But I'm doing this for all of you. There's nothing really good about this movie, and there's certainly no reason why you would want to watch it again. So rewatchability gets a thumbs down. With all these things considered, I have to give Firestarter a 1 out of 10. There was a cool concept somewhere in this film, but the acting was disgusting. The script was god-awful. The plot was lacking. And there was no storyline or character development really at all. At the end of this film, you just wonder why in the world they even made it. Stephen King movie adaptations for me are hit or miss, and this one's definitely a miss. Absolutely do not waste your time going to see this movie in theaters. Apparently it's also streaming on Peacock, but I wouldn't even waste your time watching it on that. Thank you so much for watching. If you had the unfortunate mispleasure of going to see Firestarter in theaters, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.